What happens when a country music superstar walks into the lion's den of daytime television and refuses to back down from one of the most outspoken hosts in America? The answer is an explosive confrontation that left an entire studio audience stunned in a television show in complete chaos. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think about celebrities standing their ground on live television. Blake Shelton walked onto The View set that morning with his trademark confident swagger, tipping his cowboy hat to the cheering audience. The country music legend had been invited to discuss his latest album and upcoming tours, what seemed like a routine promotional appearance. But Joy Behar had other plans. Well, look who decided to grace us with his presence, Joy said with that razor-sharp smile of hers as Blake settled into the guest chair. Blake Shelton, the voice of rural America. Or should I say the voice of a very specific part of rural America. Blake's smile never wavered, but his eyes narrowed slightly. Good morning to you too, Joy. Always a pleasure to be here with you, lovely ladies. Oh, cut the charm offensive, Blake. Joy shot back, leaning forward in her chair. Let's talk about your recent comments about small-town values. You seem to think that living in a small town automatically makes someone more moral, more patriotic than the rest of us city dwellers. The other hosts exchanged glances, sensing the tension building. Whoopi Goldberg tried to intervene with a gentle redirect, but Joy was just getting started. I never said that, Joy. Blake replied, his Oklahoma drawl becoming more pronounced. What I said was that small towns teach you certain values. Community, helping your neighbors, working hard for what you have. I didn't say anything about being better than anyone else. Oh, please. Joy waved her hand dismissively. That's exactly what you implied. You country music stars love to paint yourselves as the real Americans while the rest of us are what? Fake Americans. We're just as American as you are, Blake. Blake's jaw tightened, but he kept his composure. Joy, I think you're putting words in my mouth that I never said. I respect people from all walks of life, whether they're from New York City or from a town with 3,000 people. Do you though? Joy pressed on, her voice rising slightly. Because your music, your whole persona, it's built on this idea that real America is somewhere out there in the heartland, and places like New York, places like where I grew up somehow don't count. The audience was dead silent now, sensing this was going somewhere unexpected. Sarah Ann attempted to jump in with a question about Blake's music, but Joy wasn't finished. You know what bothers me most about this whole small-town superiority complex? Joy continued, her hands gesturing emphatically. It's that you get to sit there and judge the rest of us while making millions of dollars singing about pickup trucks and dirt roads. You've been living in Hollywood and Nashville for decades, Blake. When's the last time you actually lived in one of these small towns you're always singing about? Blake's relaxed demeanor began to shift. His shoulders straightened, and for the first time since sitting down, he looked genuinely annoyed. Joy, I may live in Nashville now, but I haven't forgotten where I come from. I was raised in Ada, Oklahoma, population 12,000. My dad worked construction. My mom was a beauty shop owner. I know what it's like to grow up in a place where everybody knows everybody. And now you're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Joy shot back. You've got mansions in multiple states, private jets, the whole 9 yards. Don't you think it's a little disingenuous to keep playing this common man card? Blake's famous smile finally cracked. You know what, Joy? Just because someone becomes successful doesn't mean they forget their roots. I've been blessed, absolutely, but that doesn't change who I am or where I come from. And I'm proud of where I come from. Proud enough to exploit it for profit, Joy retorted. Your whole brand is built on this mythology of simple country folk versus sophisticated city people. It's divisive, Blake, and frankly, it's getting old. The tension in the studio was palpable now. Whoopi tried once more to steer the conversation in a different direction, but Blake was no longer interested in playing nice. Exploit it, Blake repeated, his voice rising for the first time. Joy, I write and sing about my life, my experiences, the people I grew up with. That's not exploitation. That's authenticity. And if you can't tell the difference, maybe that says more about you than it does about me. Joy's eyes flashed with anger. Authenticity? Give me a break, Blake. You're about as authentic as a $3 bill. You're a manufactured product, just like every other country star churned out by the Nashville machine. The audience gasped audibly. Even the other hosts looked uncomfortable now, realizing this had gone far beyond typical daytime television banter. Blake stood up slowly, his 6'5" frame towering over the panel. You know what, Joy? I've sat here and taken your shots because I respect this show and I respect most of the people on it. But I'm not going to sit here and let you attack my character and my integrity. Oh, did I strike a nerve? Joy taunted, clearly enjoying the reaction she was getting. The truth hurts, doesn't it, Blake? The truth. Blake's voice was steady, but ice cold. The truth is that you've been sitting behind this desk for years, throwing stones at people, tearing them down, making nasty comments about anyone who doesn't share your worldview. And you call that entertainment. Joy's face flushed. Red, I call it honesty. Something you might want to try sometime. Blake shook his head slowly. Honesty would be admitting that you've already made up your mind about me before I even walked in here. You don't want to have a conversation, Joy. You want to know how to fight. Maybe I do, Joy replied defiantly. Maybe it's time someone called you out on your act. The studio was electric with tension. Cameras kept rolling as the confrontation reached a boiling point that no one had anticipated. Blake looked down at Joy with a mixture of disappointment and anger. You want to call me out? Fine. Let's do this properly then. You sit there every day criticizing people you've never met, places you've never been, experiences you've never. How do you talk about small towns like they're some kind of joke, like the people who live there are beneath you? Joy leaned back in her chair, arms crossed defensively. I never said they were beneath me. I said, your portrayal of them is fake. My portrayal? Blake's voice grew louder. I didn't read about it in a book or watch it on television. I lived in a place where when your neighbor's barn burned down, 20 families showed up the next day to help rebuild it. Where when someone got sick, the whole community rallied around them. That's not fake. That's real life. Oh, spare me the Norman Rockwell painting, Joy interrupted. Small towns have problems too, Blake. They have poverty, addiction, close-mindedness. But you never sing about that, do you? You only sing about the pretty parts. Blake's hands clenched into fists at his sides. You think I don't know about the hard parts? My hometown has struggled with factory closures, young people leaving because there aren't enough opportunities. I've seen families lose everything. But you know what? Those same people who are struggling still look out for each other. They still have dignity. They still have heart. And they still vote for politicians who keep them struggling, Joy shot back. But I suppose that's not something you want to talk about either. The other hosts were frantically trying to signal for a commercial break, but the confrontation had taken on a life of its own. There it is, Blake said, pointing at Joy. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You think you know better than everyone else. You think you can sit in your New York studio and tell people in Oklahoma or Kansas or Iowa how they should think, how they should vote, how they should live their lives. Joy's voice became shrill. Someone has to tell them the truth, Blake. Someone has to point out when they're being manipulated by people like you who profit off their nostalgia and their fears. People like me. Blake's laugh was bitter. Joy, I've never told anyone how to vote. I've never told anyone how to think. I sing songs about my life, about experiences that millions of people can relate to. If that threatens you somehow, maybe you need to ask yourself why. It doesn't threaten me, Joy snapped. It disgusts me, this whole fake patriotism, this whole real America nonsense. As if the rest of us aren't real Americans too. Blake stepped closer to the panel, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. You know what disgusts me, Joy? The way you talk about patriotism like it's something to be ashamed of. The way you mock people who love their country, who respect the flag, who honor veterans. What's fake about that? Oh, don't you dare question my patriotism. Joy stood up now, her chair scraping against the floor. I've been fighting for this country's values longer than you've been alive. Real values, not this manufactured heartland mythology you peddle. Fighting for this country's values. Blake's voice rose to match hers by tearing down everyone who disagrees with you. By mocking traditions that mean something to people, by acting like half the country is too stupid to think for themselves. The studio audience was completely silent now, watching this unprecedented meltdown unfold. Security guards had quietly moved closer to the set, ready to intervene if necessary. I don't think they're stupid, Joy said through gritted teeth. I think they're being lied to by people like you who tell them that their problems are someone else's fault. Blake shook his head in disbelief. Joy, I've never blamed anyone for anything in my music. I sing about working hard, about family, about finding joy in simple things. If that's controversial to you, then maybe you're the one with the problem. Simple things. Joy repeated mockingly. Like what, Blake? Like sitting on your porch with a beer, pretending the world isn't falling apart around you. Blake's face turned red with anger. You know what? You're right about one thing. I do like sitting on my porch with a beer. And you know why? Because after dealing with people like you, people who think they're smarter than everyone else, people who think they have all the answers, it's nice to find a little peace. Joy laughed harshly. Peace? Is that what you call ignorance these days? I call it contentment. Blake fired back. Something you clearly wouldn't understand. You're so busy being angry at the world, so busy telling everyone else how wrong they are that you've forgotten how to just be happy. Happy. Joy's voice cracked with emotion. How can anyone be happy when there's so much injustice in the world? How can you just sit there and sing your little songs while people are suffering? Blake's anger suddenly shifted to something that looked almost like pity. Joy. People have been suffering since the beginning of time. And you know what's helped them get through it? Community, faith, hope, love. The same things I sing about. The same things you seem to think are worthless. They're worthless when they're used to keep people from demanding better, Joy replied, her voice shaking now. When they're used to make people accept things they shouldn't have to accept. And who decides what people should and shouldn't accept? Blake asked quietly. You, the media, politicians. Or maybe, just maybe, people are smart enough to decide for themselves. Joy slammed her hand on the table. Not when they're being manipulated by celebrity millionaires who pretend to be just like them. Blake stood perfectly still for a moment, staring at Joy with an expression that was impossible to read. Then slowly, he reached up and took off his cowboy hat. You know what, Joy? He said, his voice eerily calm. You're absolutely right about one thing. I am a millionaire. I do live a different life now than I did growing up. But there's the thing you're dead wrong about. He placed his hat on the table in front of him with deliberate precision. I've never pretended to be anything other than exactly who I am. I've never lied about my success. I've never hidden my wealth. I've never claimed to be something I'm not. Can you say the same? Joy's face went pale. What's that supposed to mean? Blake's smile was cold as ice. It means maybe before you start lecturing other people about authenticity, you should take a long look in the mirror. The studio fell into an uncomfortable silence as Joy processed Blake's words. Her face cycled through several emotions before settling on pure rage. How dare you? She whispered, her voice trembling with fury. How dare you come on to my show and attack me personally? Blake picked up his hat and placed it back on his head with slow, deliberate movements. Joy, this is The View, not the Joy Behar Show. And I'm not attacking you personally. I'm responding to your personal attacks on me. You think you're so clever, don't you? Joy's voice was getting louder again. Coming in here with your folksy wisdom and your ash routine. Well, let me tell you something, cowboy. I've been in this business longer than you've been wearing that ridiculous hat. Blake's eyebrows raised slightly. This business. You mean the business of entertainment? Because last I checked, we're both entertainers, Joy. The only difference is I don't pretend my entertainment is more important than anyone else's. My entertainment, Joy stood up straighter, her voice reaching a crescendo. I inform people, Blake. I educate them. I help them understand the world around them. What do? You help them escape from reality. And what's wrong with that? Blake asked, his voice calm in contrast to Joy's escalating volume. What's wrong with giving people a few minutes of happiness? What's wrong with helping them forget their troubles for a little while? Joy laughed bitterly because while they're forgetting their troubles, those troubles are getting worse. While they're listening to your songs about simpler times, the world is passing them by. Blake shook his head slowly. Joy, you talk about informing people and educating them, but all I've seen today is you trying to tear me down. Is that what you call education? Is that what you call helping people understand the world? I'm helping them understand that people like you are selling them a fantasy. Joy shot back, a fantasy that keeps them from demanding the real changes they need. And what changes are those? Joy. Blake's voice had an edge to it now. What exactly do you think I'm keeping people from demanding? Joy gestured wildly with her hands. Better jobs, better healthcare, better education for their children. Instead of fighting for those things, they're content to live in your make-believe world where everything is simple and pure and good. Blake was quiet for a long moment, studying Joy's face. When he spoke, his voice was softer, but somehow more dangerous. You know what I think, Joy? I think you're angry because people find comfort in things that don't come from you. I think you're angry because despite all your lecturing and educating and informing, people still choose to listen to simple songs about simple pleasures. Joy's face turned bright red. That's not what this is about, isn't it? Blake pressed on. You can't stand that people find joy in things you don't understand, things you don't control. You can't stand that someone like me, someone you think is beneath you intellectually, can connect with people in ways you never could. You don't connect with people, Joy spat. You manipulate them. You feed them lies about how great things used to be so they won't notice how bad things are now. Blake's laugh was harsh. Joy, I've never once said things used to be better. I've never said people should go backward. I sing about appreciating what you have, about finding happiness in your family, your friends, your community. If that's manipulation, then I guess I'm guilty. You are guilty? Joyce said, her voice breaking slightly. You're guilty of keeping people satisfied with less than they deserve. Blake stared at her for a long moment, then slowly began walking toward the edge of the set. You know what, Joy? I came here today to talk about my music, to have a conversation with you and your colleagues. But clearly, you had a different agenda. Where are you going? Joy demanded. We're not finished here. Blake stopped and turned back to face her. Yes, we are, because there's no point in continuing this conversation. You've made it clear that you don't want to discuss anything. You want to attack everything. Joy's voice became shrill. I want to discuss the truth, Blake. I want to discuss your responsibility as a public figure. My responsibility. The voice was incredulous. Joy. My responsibility is to my fans, to the people who buy my music and come to my shows. My responsibility is to be honest about who I am and what I believe. I don't owe you or anyone else an apology for that. You owe it to the American people to stop feeding them this small-town mythology. Joy shouted, her composure completely gone now. You owe it to them to stop pretending that ignorance is bliss. Blake's face went stone cold. And there it is again. You just called millions of Americans ignorant. You just called people who live in small towns, people who work hard and raise their families and try to do right by their neighbors, ignorant. I didn't say that, Joy protested, but her voice lacked conviction. Yes, you did, Blake said firmly. You just said it. And you know what? That tells me everything I need to know about you and your version of education and information. The other hosts were frantically trying to signal for a commercial break. But the confrontation had spiraled completely out of control. Just walk away, Joy called out as Blake continued toward the exit. You can't just run away when someone challenges your beliefs. Blake stopped one final time and turned back to the panel. Joy, you haven't challenged my beliefs. You've insulted me. You've insulted my fans. And you've insulted millions of Americans who don't happen to share your worldview. Challenge. That's just mean-spirited. The truth is mean-spirited sometimes, Joy replied defiantly. Blake nodded slowly. You're right about that. And the truth is, this show used to be about different perspectives having a conversation. Now it's apparently about one perspective shouting down all the others. With that, Blake Shelton walked off the view set, leaving Joy Behar standing alone behind the panel, her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. The studio audience sat in stunned silence as the cameras continued rolling, capturing one of the most explosive moments in daytime television history. Security quickly moved in to restore order while producers scrambled to figure out how to salvage the rest of the show. The heated exchange had lasted less than 20 minutes, but it would be talked about for years to come. What did you think of this incredible confrontation between Blake Shelton and Joy Behar? Did Blake have the right to walk off the set, or should he have stayed and continued the debate? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories from the world of entertainment.